The theme at Davos this year is rebuilding trust. Could that be because they know that we really don't trust any of these assholes that go to Davos in the first place? I didn't warn you about that word, but yeah, I'm calling them assholes. First of all, who goes to Davos thinking that everyone thinks that this is like, it's a bad look now going to Davos. I think Russell Brand calls it like investors Coachella or something like that, globalist Coachella. It's like a place where you know that you're going to go and try and set an agenda for the world, and you are an unelected leader. This is the World Economic Forum's annual gathering of unelected leaders who plan out the future of the world based on their own economic interest. Usually it involves putting the interest of the average person in les toilettes. The annual meeting for 2024 takes place next week, January 15th through 19th. So we took a look at the agenda, and yeah, here is the theme: rebuilding trust, which made Philip laugh. And that takes a lot to make Philip laugh. What do you find funny about that, Philip? Can you just explain that little chuckle?
Oh, it's the rebuilding trust. I mean, one, you never had it. Yes. And two, that means that you're painfully aware that you don't have it and you're trying to do something about it. They should map out their own damn thoughts and have their AI track them down and figure out why it is nobody trusts them. That's what I would do.
And you know,
couldn't have said it better myself.
And you know, it's funny if you think about rebuilding trust. Maybe they thought at some point when no one knew who they were, that they had trust, right? It was just this circle. It was just these friends that got together at Davos, Bill Gates and all that. No one was really aware of like the nefarious things that they were actually doing.
Yes.
Right. So in that early stages, they had trust. And now they've completely.
They had trust because they had anonymity. That's right. Not trust.
Well, it's trust. It's trust for themselves during their luncheons.
And what's funny is like to rebuild trust, what they're going to have to do is take away our right to say we don't trust them. Like they will silence us. They're going to silence everybody on social media to rebuild our trust so that people can't, counter our narratives.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What were you saying, Philip?
And then act surprised. I was gonna say, and then they act surprised that nobody trusts their secret cabal. I mean, like literally, like that is just not a good look, guys. It's not a good look.
It really isn't. And it seems to me a tacit admission that the world leaders have earned their loss of trust. They deserve it that we don't trust them. So I, thought, okay, if they really, again, every time I do this segment, every year I go through the Davos agenda and I'm like, don't be cynical, Natalie. Maybe there's some well-intentioned good stuff here. And then it just blows my mind at what I see. So I'm trying here. I'm trying. But if they really wanted to regain trust, they could apologize for pushing climate change measures that hurt the environment and average people more. That's one thing. Maybe they could apologize for social tracking, mass vaccination, taking away freedoms. Maybe they could apologize for selling endless, useless wars built on lies. That's how they could build up trust. But spoiler alert, they're not going to do any of that shit. They're not. They're going to go all in on more war, more climate policy, and another pandemic for a disease they don't even know about yet. This panel here, scheduled for the 17th, will blow your mind. That's not a good graphic. I apologize. I'm going to read it to you. What it says is preparing for disease X. Says the World Health Organization is warning that disease X, it's unknown, it says, could result in 20 times more fatalities than the coronavirus pandemic. So we need to be prepared. It's unknown, it's disease X, and it's 20 times more fatal, they say. Okay, go ahead, David. What's your reaction to that?
I was going to say, I wonder if that's a slam on Elon, if they're calling it that because it's like disease Twitter, basically.
Disease X. Sounds like science fiction, but I think the 20 times more than coronavirus, like as we talked about, like, do you know anyone that died of coronavirus?
No, we know people that died with coronavirus, and even the CDC now has revised their deaths because of that.
Yeah.
So yes, that obviously, that will get your attention. But then if you look here, it says this session is linked to Partnership for Health Systems Sustainability and Resistance and the Collaborative Surveillance Initiative. Okay. So in order to, get a hold on this fatal disease X, they're going to need to have collaborative surveillance. And who is the panelist? Big Pharma is on this panelist list. I know you can't see that, and I'm sorry. And also Dr. Tedros. You see there, AstraZeneca is on the panelist list. Will that rebuild trust, do you think? I mean, they could apologize for the mistakes they made during COVID. It does not look like they're going to do that. Last year, you may recall that the Davos program was very, very heavy on giving Russia the cold shoulder to tank their economy and combat disinformation. In fact, there were panels about making Russia pay through sport. They had the IOC speaking on how they could make sure that the world knew that Russia was persona non grata through, I don't know, the economy, sport, all of that. Last year, the program even predicted, here's from 2023, predicting the Russian economy would shrink by 6% because of the actions of these Davos men. But it didn't. Take a look at what actually happened a year later. The Russian economy actually grew by 3.5% in 2023. So these Davos dudes, they could rebuild trust by apologizing for tanking Western countries while trying to tank Russia. Oops, we tanked the wrong economy. Maybe they could apologize for that. That would rebuild trust, right? You think? Crickets, guys?
I mean, absolutely. You know, again, I was just in Berlin. I was just in Germany. We were in Germany just a few days ago. And it's unbelievable to see what has happened to this economy, given what these globalists have done. What has happened to these Western economies, the largest economy in Europe, can't even put food on the table. Farmers being run out of business because of incredibly high fuel costs, skyrocketing fuel costs for energy, for electronics, for manufacturing, for textile manufacturing, for everything. So yeah, it really hurt an economy. It wasn't the Russian economy, which saw a sizable GDP growth, and shored up their entire manufacturing sector. But no, Germany collapsing, Europe collapsing.
We're really going to get them. And then a year later, it's us that's hurting. Maybe they could admit that, these unelected globalists. I don't think they're going to. In fact, look at this next panel. They're preparing us for continued war in the Middle East. Now that the war in Russia is no longer in vogue, it's like securing an insecure world. Right? Okay. More war. Notice the speakers here.
Why are we so insecure? It's because of you assholes.
Well, look who is speaking here. For head of NATO, right? World Economic Forum panelists.
Oh my God.
Warmonger Chris Coons is on this panel, who just today posted a video on X featuring lies about the war in Ukraine.
Annalena Baerbock is there. She's speaking. Of course, you'll recall, she's the one who told Germans, in Germany, she's like, I care more about Ukrainians than I care about my own people in Germany.
That's exactly what she said. Yes. And the woman who Philip said, I hope she has to break down her own piano to stay warm this winter, because she's saying, I don't care who is cold. Right. We have to send.
That's a great panel.
Yes. That panel. Well, here's a video.
Are they going to stream this? Because I gotta watch. That sounds captivating.
I'm not sure.
They usually do, and now I don't know, because they've really tried to be more on lockdown, trying to keep reporters like us away from there, the independent media, trying to keep them away now. So I don't know if they're going to quietly release this stuff this time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll look into it, because that's what I'll be doing next week with popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like popcorn, but
what?
I'll find something.
Since when?
I don't like popcorn.
Since when? You always eat it.
It makes you so thirsty. I don't eat it anymore. Now I just bring M&Ms.
But you
to
like
the movies.
it, but then you're like, I feel badly afterwards.
No, I don't eat it anymore.
When you smell
Eve
popcorn,
and I don't,
it's like Bugs Bunny floating towards the smell.
I'm always like, I'm not enjoying this, actually. So I just bring chocolate.
You're getting older.
I digress. So Chris Coons is the American on that panel about war.
Oh, good.
And I just want to point out to you that just today he posted this full of lies about the war in Ukraine, and saying that when Congress returns to session, his number one priority is to continue to send aid to Ukraine. So we know what he's going to do when he gets to Davos next week. So clearly this panel has nothing to do with the truth in war. Nothing. They're just there to prepare to capitalize on it. Will that rebuild trust? No, because they're admitting that basically everyone in Davos will just follow the U.S. agenda. Look at this panel that exists for no other reason other than to point out how the United States sets the global agenda. It's just no other country has a panel like this. It's not like what China wants, what Russia wants. It's just the United States. They're the leaders. Show up.
Who's going to be there at that panel? Is it going to be like other countries that come there and sit there like sycophants who are like, you know, like,
Lloyd Austin.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is
And
the
you
whole
won't send
world
notice?
suffering because of the whole world is suffering because of us. Germany is going through what they're going through because we blew up their Nord Stream pipeline. Like, we are responsible for these people going through this stuff, and they're gonna like put us up as like, here, you want to be like more like America, here you go.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the most ridiculous. I mean, look at the description of this. Like, given the fundamental transformations in the world, how will the U.S. respond and where will it lead? Like, please tell us, America, where are you going to lead us by the nose and we'll just follow? That's a panel at the World Economic Forum is just, what does Uncle Sam want? That's weird,
Yes.
right?
It's like the whole
It must be
panel,
our
like
beacon
all
of
of
democracy.
all of the different panels, and then here's just one random panel. It's like how America
Tells us what to do.
tells us what to do. Are you going to go to that panel after lunch today? The how America tells us what to do.
Right.
Yeah, I have to go because they told me I have to go. So I'll
I mean,
be
you
there
can
after.
see these sort of more populist leaders saying, I'm not showing up to that, you know, and then maybe not. We'll see. I don't know. Will that rebuild trust even going there? Like, imagine you voted for Javier Milei or
He's going, by the way.
to the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
Right. Imagine you voted for him and then you watch him taking notes in a panel like this. The voter who would vote him in would be so pissed off, don't you think? Watching Georgia Maloney taking notes, like, okay, what does the U.S. want from me? I'm gonna.
Well, that's the frustrating part, right? When you think, okay, yeah, Giorgia Meloni in Italy, we're going to see this revolution. And then she's on the phone with Klaus Schwab. Like, come on. You know what? We've all been played. Javier
Right.
Milei. Oh, we've all been played, right? That's the thing. Where do we have these leaders who are separate from this?
Who are
They're-
saying, I'm not showing up to that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
It's a big joke.
Who was the leader recently we talked about that literally just said everyone hates America? It was a Czech leader, I thought.
Or was it Orban? No.
It wasn't.
Czech leader?
I think
Yeah, I
it
think you're right
was.
about that.
I think it was a Czech leader. Anyway, maybe leaders.
So
like
maybe
this.
there should be a panel on how the United States can restore trust.
And then they go and listen, not present.
Right. Okay. So the United States has been bullying its allies and partners and setting up military bases around the world for many, many years. How can the United States restore trust and faith in the world? How can we be looked
and then
up
the
as a
panel-
bastion of freedom?
The panel is just a bunch of random names that we don't know because they're just citizens that are
Right.
speaking about it.
Well, okay. Speaking of citizens, could this globalist group rebuild trust by admitting that asking people not to use energy is asking them not to prosper? And that there is no future of climate change without affordable energy, and asking people to live with less is not the answer? Will they do that? No, they will not. They're not going to do that. Instead, take a look at this. Transforming energy demand says that what can companies and governments do to enable economic growth with less energy? They want you not to have heat. They want you not to have any kind of transportation or energy to get you around. It's basic. The message remains not, I mean, we've presented to you so many times, so much research that shows that when an economy prospers, then climate emissions go down. Impact on the environment goes down because technology will advance us to the point where we are no longer doing things that are harder on the earth. We've presented you with research that shows that with prosperity comes a decline in emissions, and you need access to gas and energy in order to prosper. Those things are linearly connected, but they're pretending that it's not here, pretending that we can shrink the lives of nations and solve climate problems in that way. And it's false. It's a false narrative. We've seen that over and over and over again. Instead, they want to focus not on reprogramming the agenda and creating prosperity for all. That is not a priority. Instead, they want to focus on reprogramming you. Take a look at this panel. They're calling it reskilling. This is a new word that we might see globalists use. Whatever you do for a job, you won't be able to do that as a job in the future if they have their way, because they want a powerless you. So they're going to reskill the global workplace. This could sort of make sense in terms of like, okay, certain things used to be automated and now robots do that job. So we need to reskill this population. Or more cynical view might be, we don't need farmers because we have Bill Gates mass-produced factory food, and you'll eat
meat.
that instead. So we'll take those farmers and we will reskill them into District 12.
Right, we
That's
will
a
keep
Hunger
them.
Games reference.
I saw people in the chat here saying like 15-minute cities. Well, they don't want you to work, right? They want you to have a universal basic income. They want you to stay at home, and they want to control you.
Yeah.
And they want you on their pharmaceuticals. They don't want you being entrepreneurial. They don't want you going out there and doing those things. So they will take away your livelihood, and they will reskill you the way that they feel is necessary. for
Right.
this new
Again,
world.
I see this very Hunger Games. District 4 does textiles. District 5 does
Right.
mining, right? District 12, that's how it reads to me. Again, that's me being cynical. You're free to present this in a different way to me if you think I'm being overly cynical. Will they rebuild trust? Here's another, pipe dream. By collaborating for peace, it does not seem like they want to do that either. In fact, here's a panel that is discussing a plan for a European army. Okay, here was Clayton when I screamed about this today. He goes, who runs that army? Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Commission?
Well, I specifically said, which unelected leader is going to run the EU army, right? Because
Right.
if you didn't vote for a war, you didn't vote for your leaders to participate in this war. So what unelected globalists are going to be in charge of the EU army?
Well, that idea was floated this week by Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani. He said, if we want to be bearers of peace in the world, we need a European army. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Makes so much sense. European army.
So they're going to be the bearers of peace, and we're going to be the bearers of democracy. Sounds like a good combo.
Yeah, I mean, the European Union is just the lapdog of whatever the United States wants. The United States says sit dog, and they sit. And so now they're saying we need a European army basically to do the bidding of whatever our pimp the United States wants. More
Can
about
be their own lapdog.
right? Yeah. More about rebuilding trust. Look at this panel on freedom of expression. It is a blatant admission here that freedom of expression, when you are free to express yourself, that causes for them disinformation and a dire environment for the press. Why the hell do we care about the press having a hard time when you are free to express yourself? So if you're free to express yourself, global power structures are threatened. So, don't worry, though, because they have New York Times panelist on here. The New York Times is
good.
going to tell you all about freedom of expression.
But I like how the description of this. I like how the description of this says, like, in the past decade, freedom of expression has declined in regions around the world. And it says emerging technologies, disinformation, and cyber censoring. So they're like basically saying, yeah, all of the stuff we told you we wanted to do last year is working. Now what? Now they're going to rebuild trust by taking that out.
Right.
They were the
Everything
ones
that we
talking
told
about
you,
doing that. The
everything
cyber
that-
censoring.
Everything we planned to do has come to fruition, and now we're going to have a panel on how it all came to fruition.
Yeah.
how
It's
we
a
censor
very
people.
confusing description because they're pointing out freedom of expression has declined as if they don't want that and saying, and so we need to continue to censor.
You know what I think? I think a lot of these panels are bullshit. I think a lot of these panels are a front for them to just get together at lunch and hang out in the halls and have private secret meetings in the conference rooms and go up to the hotel rooms of Bill Gates.
Okay, maybe, but don't blow up my piece yet because I have a few
what
more
I'm
things
saying
to
is
show you.
They're actively involved in these panels, but what's really happening is like the stuff behind the scenes where they're really, I guess what I'm saying is these panels are as good as it gets. That what's
but I
happening
have
behind.
more to show you. So
I know, but you're missing
Okay.
my point. What I'm saying is that the panels this is the best that they're putting their best foot forward, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Is this their best foot forward? How about this one on tackling obesity? It says that obesity is now a global epidemic. So look at the panelists that they're going to talk to. The CEO of Novo Nordisk, the maker of Ozempic. In Ozempic, we've talked about a lot, is the injectable weight loss drug that's associated with cancer in rats. and is facing no fewer than 4 lawsuits because it's so harmful to humans who've taken it. But no, this is how they think that the world should tackle obesity, with a biopharmaceutical complex, not like make the food system more healthy or, you know, get people to move more, anything like that. No. Big pharma. Okay, a few other panels worth watching. Here, they want to rebuild trust by liberating science. What does that mean? Given that we're told that science that the governments don't like is not science. We've been told that over the last 3 years of the pandemic. And the science they do like is so fast moving, they cannot explain it to plebeians like us. So do we trust them to liberate science? I don't like that terminology. What we don't know is, you know, what all of this means, because the journalists that are invited from mainstream media outlets lack curiosity when narratives about war and pandemics and tracking come up. When real journalists try to speak to these people, this is what happens. Last year, we showed you this when Japanese journalist Masako Gana confronted Klaus Schwab to try and get some answers. He showed some interest and then asked what media organization she was with, and she said independent, and he went, no, and walked away. Watch.
Chairman Schwab, I'm from Japan. May I ask you for? I'm from Japan.
Yeah.
And may I ask you for a comment?
No,
We're on our way to the next thing. We're a bit late.
I can just walk with you and then ask
I think
questions.
we're gonna rush actually. But thank you. Thanks very much.
which media are you with?
I am an independent journalist from Japan.
No, thank you very much.
Yes.
I have
No, thank you. Oh, you're independent. No.
All right, so she chases him for a little bit longer. We can stop that. And then I just want to show you a few minutes of this piece when Rebel News' Avi Yemeni confronted Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla about all the trouble with their COVID booster shots and all of the revelations that came to light at the time. And then Albert Bourla all of a sudden was an expert at cross-country skiing because he couldn't get away from this guy fast enough. Let's just watch a few seconds of this.
Mr. Bourla, can I ask you, when did you know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission? How long did you know that without saying it publicly?
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Answer that question. I mean, we now know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission, but why did you keep it secret? You said it was 100% effective.
Look at this lady in the red. She's
then 80%,
panicked
then
that
70%.
he is anywhere, and
but we
she
now
can't
know
get
that the vaccines
him
do not
separated.
stop transmission. Why did you keep that secret?
Have a nice day.
I won't have a nice day until I know the answer. Why did you keep it a secret?
All right.
The best part is that goes on for minutes, because
6 minutes.
And you have to think that one of his handlers is like, we mapped out a route to get you to lunch. We think that this is the best route. Whoever that person was lost their job after that afternoon because he couldn't get away from her.
He goes in and
him.
out of several doors before he's actually able to separate himself from this guy. The story we just talked about another Rebel News reporter in Canada doing something similar. Well, that guy got attacked and arrested, right? And so is this now the template? If you have any journalist who wants to ask a sincere, curious question, will we see this happening more? Because when we see these, panelists of CNBC journalists or New York Times journalists as the moderators, they're not going to push. They lack curiosity. They will never sacrifice themselves at the altar of truth. So, we're going to have to watch what we can see and then hope that maybe a real journalist sneaks in a question every now and again.
Well, that's the sad part, is that now the mainstream media is considered the only real journalist when they're actually the least journalist. Think about somebody like Tucker Carlson on Fox News. He could have walked up, hey, Tucker Carlson, Fox News. They feel obligated because a lot of people are going to see that. But now if you were to walk up, Tucker Carlson, independent journalist, we don't talk. You're a right-wing nut job. We don't talk to you. You know what I mean? It's like if you're not in that mainstream, you're considered a nut job when you're doing better journalism than the actual quote unquote journalists.
Yeah,
right, but only by establishment. And we've showed you at the end of last year the surveys that showed that the trust in the press has plummeted. So I think most people now understand that they're not getting the real truth.
Most people understand that, but the establishment loves to talk to its own, right? So I think what David is saying is that, if you walk up and you're with CNBC and you have a microphone from CNBC,
Sure.
then Klaus Schwab is more inclined to speak with you. But the American people understand that these organizations are worthless, and they're liars,
Yes.
and they're propagandists, and they're mouthpieces of the intelligence community and the deep
Which
state.
just makes them participants in this globalist orgy.
Right. Yeah, it's one
And
big
so
circle jerk.
All we can do is watch and say, well, whatever they're saying, I don't think I want that. Recall last year, Elon Musk posted on, when it was still Twitter at the time, that it seems like Davos people want to be the boss of the earth. How is this even a thing? He says, are they trying to be the boss of the earth? Maybe that's why they rebranded the conference this way this year, of rebuilding trust, because they do want to be the boss of the earth, say that a few times, boss of the earth, but they want us to trust them that they don't. They want us to look the other way while they plan to be the boss of the earth. So I will link to this program in the newsletter tomorrow. Go through it yourself. Let me know what you think, and we'll watch it next week and see what we think.
I'm ready for that. I'm ready for those panels.
Yeah.
There's always so much amazing garbage that comes out of them, and they really are like planning the future. And what's sad about these panels and what's sad about these meetings that the World Economic Forum has and the WHO has is that when they talk about these things, they come true. These things are then implemented. They have these panels, and then they go back to private rooms, and then they implement this stuff. They make phone calls, they get it together, and then they make us all suffer. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover.